Welcome back to Open Line. If you're just joining us, we are talking tonight about HB 1944 going through the Tennessee legislature. It is the quote-unquote obscene books bill that goes into looking at should there be a framework in place if a parent finds a certain book obscene and what should happen if that happens. We have our first call-in of the night. Peanut is on line one. Thank you so much for joining us tonight and watching. What's your comment or question, Peanut?
Yes, you're welcome. Thank you for having this show. Well, I've got a couple of comments and a question. I came up here for the most part in Nashville. I was still in elementary school. And when we got out of elementary school, about the time that you got home, we had a movie zone called The Big Show, and it was a way to keep kids occupied. One of the movies I saw was basically the same movie, but it was in black and white. That was based off the book that came out here in the past 20 or so years called Flags of Our Fathers. And about that same time I was watching that movie, there was a controversy about Johnny Cash singing a song called Drunken Ira Hayes. And people went nuts. And not all people went nuts. We didn't go nuts here in Tennessee because that's when we weren't crazy here in Tennessee. Now it seems like we've gone way out in cray-cray land. But the controversy was the fact that Johnny Cash had defended Ira Hayes, and his son, one of the sons that put up the flag on Iwo Jima, wrote a book. I can't think of his name. I think it was the guy who wrote Flags of Our Father. And he wrote another book here in the past 20 years called The Imperial Cruise. Now, I read that book because I wanted to follow up that movie I saw over 50 years ago. And I was grateful that I was still in elementary school and able to see that movie and try to understand it. And when I saw Flags of Our Fathers, it became more focused for me because it was written by the son of one of the people who erected the flag. Now, when I read Imperial Cruise, it brought me as an adult back out into the world to really understand the truth of what has gone on. And I'm not ashamed to be an American. I'm not ashamed to know that our country did that. And I'm not ashamed to say that what our country did was wrong. But I guess that's obscene for me to feel that way. So I have a lot of respect for librarians because they have been my savior in my life, especially when I was in elementary school. And I listened to the lady, I think on the far right, my far right on the screen, stage left up there on the TV screen, the first lady who spoke. And she said that she believed that this had something to do with Moms for Liberty. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Moms for Liberty, I think, is rooted in a group called the John Birch Society. And when I read Imperial Cruise, I saw the John Birch Society in that book, but back then they were going by a different name.
Hey Peanut, if you have a direct question, we probably need to get to a direct question.
I just want to say that, I want to ask, are we going backwards? Because these people don't seem to want to accept the truth or handle the truth. I am an elderly white woman, and I am not ashamed of being an elderly white woman in any history that has happened to this country. What is the truth is the truth. Do you think that these people, these Moms for Liberty, one of which died because she refused to wear a mask and said COVID was a hoax, do you believe that they are part of something that is by design intended to take down free speech in this country as a whole? Now you can answer
Peanut,
this.
I'm gonna go ahead and let them get to it because we've given you a lot of our real estate tonight to make your point. But I will open that up to the floor here. Anybody that wants to address that.
Yeah, I think, Moms for Liberty is not a local organization. They're a national organization. They've been behind book banning in lots of states. They're extremely well funded by the extreme far right. This isn't by any means a sort of a groundswell. It's not public opinion. It's an organized, concentrated effort. Mm-hmm.
Let's go ahead and get to Michael on line 2 with us. Michael, go ahead with your question or comment.
Thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
The problem I'm having with this is I know libraries have fiction, nonfiction, juvenile fiction, graphic arts, all different categories, correct? In their libraries. If they have a problem with these books, why take them out? Why can't they just categorize them differently, put them aside, and then direct those people to that area of the library for those books? And that's my question.
Appreciate it, Michael. Thanks so much.
A lot of libraries do. My kids attended a school that was K through 8th grade, and so they had a section that was for the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders of the library. And if you were not in those grades, you had to get your parent to sign for you to take any book out. And a lot of libraries have that. They'll have a restricted section. And what this bill is only about school libraries. So, public libraries with adult sections, this isn't about. But even still, a lot of school libraries will have a restricted section that are for the older kids in that school and requires parental permission to check a book out. That's very common.
Lindsey, while we were, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So, for example, as a former middle school librarian, you're serving children who at their youngest, maybe 10, almost 11 to 15. And that is a wide range of child development, to provide books for. And so, sure, you have fiction, you have nonfiction, you might have a series section, graphic novel section. You may talk to children about their young adult materials in the library, and that's because there are 8th graders in the school who are 13, 14, 15. They have different privileges at home, perhaps, than you as a 10 or 11-year-old do. So it was a constant conversation with new students, with 6th graders, just to make them aware that they have a lot of choices in here, but to think about what their expectations are in their home, what they're allowed to watch on TV, what video games they're allowed to play, TV shows they're allowed to stream. And we kind of think of those expectations that are set in the home, and we also, apply them to books. And there are things that librarians can do, such as you may put a note on a child's account that they are not allowed to read certain topics, or, so librarians can really work with parents, to meet a child's unique situation or unique needs, because we really do respect that and want to honor that.
And that's what's so offensive about this effort, is that instead of having those conversations, there's an effort to criminalize librarians. That's unnecessary. It doesn't need to go that far. And so, like Peanut says, this is not about the truth, right? There's no interest in that. The truth of the situation is there are already systems in place. There's already conversations happening between librarians and parents and students. And it's a system that, as Lindsey said, has proven to work in the past. It's completely unnecessary effort. And I think in some ways they're winning even by the discussion happening, because some people will hear it and think, well, there must be obscenity and pornography in schools, or why would they even propose this bill? When of course that's not the case.
Lindsey, I wanted to ask you, as you understand it, if this bill moves forward, what would the process look like if a parent wanted to report a book in a school library?
So according to the bill, there's a provision. It requires the school board to adopt a policy that would apply any time a parent files a complaint with the board claiming that a work is obscene or harmful to minors. And that policy requires that a book be immediately removed from circulation for 30 days upon receipt of the complaint. that's a really long time. Under normal circumstances, if we followed current policies, the book is not removed from circulation, and the book is reviewed by an ad hoc committee formed at the school level. It may take 10 days to 14 days. It varies per district. So the expectation is that there's a pretty quick turnaround time. You have to give time for people to read the book, and to get together and discuss it and make the decision. But but we are just taking a book and holding it for 30 days. And so during that 30-day period, either the director of school or the school board, for example, must determine whether the material violates the obscenity statute or the harmful to minors statute, and then announce their decision by the end of the 30-day period or at the next meeting of the school board. And obviously, if it's deemed appropriate, the material goes back on the shelves. If it is deemed obscene, it must be immediately removed. So there's a lot of concern of, like in the committee yesterday, Representative Dixie asked, well, couldn't a parent just declare an entire section of books obscene? And then all of a sudden you've got multiple series or 200 books pulled from circulation for 30 days. And then the amount of work that the committee has to do to review those in that amount of time. So there's a lot of concern. So just number one, a parent's stated belief that a book is obscene or harmful to minors, regardless of that validity, would require a 30-day removal from circulation. And then number two, that the board members and administrators, not a court of law, because the Miller test is supposed to be applied in a court of law, they would be asked to apply that law and decide whether the book is obscene or harmful to minors. So, pardon me, there's just some major concerns and impact to access to books and to students' First Amendment rights.
We're going to have to fit in a break real quick, but I know our authors will want to respond to that aspect of the conversation after this break.